Good morning. My name is Susie. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm your pulpit host today. On behalf of this congregation, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of Native tribes. Whether you've joined us online or you're here in our sanctuary, we're glad to have you with us in this sacred time we choose to be together. We are an open community of learning, caring, and justice making, and you are welcome here, every part of you just the way you are. Our congregation is served by our minister, Reverend Jamie Dingus, who is currently away on sabbatical leave. Jamie Simon, thank you. She recently may have gotten married. Rev. Ruth Van Lillian serves as our sabbatical minister and is available for pastoral care or to answer questions about Unitarian Universalism. She can be reached by contacting the office, and we have the fantastic, nearly Reverend Rachel Rogers here with us today. If you're a newcomer, please sign our guest book back in the foyer to receive our weekly email newsletter. Also in the foyer, underneath the name tag display, are hearing assist devices available for anyone who needs them. Please take a moment now and silence your electronic devices. If you have a joy, a sorrow, or an important milestone that you would like shared during our Circle of Candles and included in the pastoral prayer, please write it on one of these white cards found in the hymnal rack in front of you and place it in the offering basket when it comes your way later in the service. For community news and events, check our email newsletter, our website, and the paper insert in your order of service today. In case of inclement weather or other emergencies, notices of cancellation of services and activities will be communicated via church-wide email and on our Facebook page. After our service, everyone is welcome to join us here in the fellowship hall for coffee and snacks. Now I would like to invite Anna DeLacy to come and ring the singing bowl and help us enter into the service more deeply. Finally, having gathered in a shared quest for truth, meaning, and purpose, let us light our chalice with these words. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, our sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life that we share together. And now, to help center yourself and quiet your mind, we'll have our music for centering, followed by our thread song, listed in the order of service.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Rogers. I've never heard the nearly reverend as a term before. To clarify for y'all who don't know me, I'm visiting you from up the road in Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm a member and currently serving as president of the board of First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. I am also an aspirant to Unitarian Universalist ministry, that's the official term, and a seminarian at Meadville Lombard Theological School. Woo-hoo. Thanks, Susie. I like it here. Our call to worship this morning comes to us from Rebecca Edmiston Lang. Come in. Come into this place which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this place. Together, we make it a holy place. And now, if you'll please rise in body or in spirit as you are so moved to join us in singing our opening hymn, number 188 in the gray hymnal, Come, Come, whoever you are.
And we will be singing this in a round, but first we'll sing it all together, and then we'll have the second time through and third. We'll sing it through twice around. This side will start, and this side will come in after the first two measures. And then we'll keep going that way for a couple of minutes. Susie will lead that side, and I'll lead this side? Okay.
Our first hymn, it is our tradition to sing our doxology, found on the laminated blue cards in the hymnal rack in front of you. After the doxology, we turn toward the center aisle and face one another as we speak aloud our words of aspiration, also found on the blue card. Let's sing our doxology. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. We now invite anyone who is young or young at heart or needs to take a lap to join us at the front of the sanctuary for our Story for All Ages.
Good morning. My name is Jess Zelaya, and I am the DRE here at UUCH. And today's book is called You Are Enough. It is a book about inclusion, inspired by Sofia Sanchez. It's a story about a girl with Down syndrome. Hi. No two people are exactly the same. We are all unique, and that is great. Being different is what makes you special. You are just right, exactly as you are. Being different can be lonely. It may feel like you don't belong, but we're all in this together. Everyone needs a friend. Friends help one another. Friends learn from one another. Friends know that no two people are alike. A friend will celebrate you just as you are. Oh, we okay? Some people don't understand. They think being different is scary. Try to be good and brave and strong. Let people see the real you. Sometimes things might seem bigger than you, but you are stronger than your fears. That is why you have courage. Courage is when something is scary, but you do it anyway. Don't let anyone try to stop you from taking a chance or finding something new. Surround yourself with people who love you. They are your cheerleaders. Listen to them when they say, yes, you can. When you fall down, get back up. Stay fierce. Know you've got this. Don't stay on the sidelines. This is your story, so be the star. Be you wherever you go. If people stop and stare, just keep going. Remember, not everyone may understand you, but that doesn't mean you can't still be happy, just the way you are. Never say no to being yourself. Feel your own beauty, inside and out. When you let your light shine, you will brighten the world. Wouldn't it be boring if everyone was the same? Being different is beautiful. Be you, because you are enough. Being enough means you are full of love. You have purpose. You aren't perfect. No one is. But you are okay being perfectly yourself. You are enough, and your friend is enough. Your teacher and neighbor are enough too. Remember that we all belong. Look for the good in the world. Start by looking in the mirror. Love what you see there. Because just like me, you are enough. The end. Let us now sing our children out.
We are the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville, a proudly inclusive spiritual community. Together, we build a broader search for meaning, a bolder form of compassion, a braver voice for justice. If you would like to support us with a monetary contribution, we would be grateful. Your generosity helps us support our various ministries, pay our staff a fair wage, and partner with organizations that share our UU values. You can donate online using the QR code in your order of service, or you can put cash or check donations in the offering baskets. The completed Circle of Candles cards should also be placed in the offering baskets at this time. You're invited to come forward during this time and quietly drop a stone into the bowl of water here next to the ramp in honor or in memory of what you hold in your heart. It's through your generosity that we serve our mission here at UUCH, and with gratitude, we receive the offering.
Please join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, we gather here in awe and reverence and gratitude for the connection that is offered to us all. We are thankful for the interconnected web, the infinite series of choices, happenstance, blessings, sorrows, and precious accidents that all conspired to bring us to this place and this community in this moment. We gather in the spirit of welcome. We welcome each other into this community, and we extend that welcome to ourselves with every single thing that comes with that: the joys, the concerns, the celebrations, and the grief, those shared and those held close and silent. We know that every single day, every moment, we hold the truth of joy and the truths of suffering simultaneously. May we be present to them. May we be present to this joy brought forth by, quote, some church committee or other. What beautiful prayer flags. We need some more. Come help make more during our coffee hour. This sorrow from Lacey Rowe. This upcoming Saturday, February 15th, will be the 1-year anniversary of my father's death. Asking for good thoughts, prayers, and energy for this week and that day. May we be present to the sorrow from Laura Johnson. My mother, her breast cancer has returned. She broke her wrist and is having financial difficulties. And we have two concerns brought forth, one by Barbara Hitt and one by Teresa Miller, to let us know that Jeff Lynn has been in the hospital since Monday. She is doing much better and is hoping to be discharged on Monday. Let us be moved to compassion for all that has been shared into this beloved community and for all that will remain silent, unspoken in our hearts. And let us say blessed be and amen. And now, will you join us in singing our responsive music, number 1009 in the turquoise hymnal, Meditation on Breathing. Before I share this reading today, I've been sitting over here thinking, I forgot my pronouns. My pronouns are they, them, or she, hers. The way I describe it is she, hers is fine, and they, them feels like a hug. So that's me. Our reading this morning comes from poet David White and his book, Consolations, the Wit, Wisdom, and Underlying Meaning of Everyday Words. This particular section is about the word hiding. Hiding is a way of staying alive. Hiding is a way of holding ourselves until we are ready to come into the light. Hiding is one of the brilliant and virtuoso practices of almost every part of the natural world. The protective quiet of an icy northern landscape, the held bud of a future summer rose, the snowbound internal pulse of the hibernating bear. Hiding is underestimated. We are hidden by life in the womb until we grow and ready ourselves for our first appearance into the lighted world. To appear too early in that world is to find ourselves with the immediate necessity for outside intensive care. Hiding done properly is the internal, faithful promise for a proper future emergence. As embryos, as children, or even as emerging adults, in retreat from the names that have caught us and imprisoned us, often in ways where we have been too easily seen and too easily named. We live in a time of the dissected soul, the immediate disclosure, our thoughts, imaginings, and longings exposed to the light too much, too early, and too often, our best qualities squeezed too soon into a world already awash with ideas that oppress our sense of self and our sense of others. What is real is almost always, to begin with, hidden, and does not want to be understood by the part of our mind that mistakenly thinks it knows what is happening. What is precious inside us does not care to be known by the mind in ways that diminish its presence. Hiding is an act of freedom from the misunderstanding of others, especially in the enclosing world of oppressive government and private entities attempting to name us, to anticipate us, to leave us with no place to hide and grow in ways unmanaged by a creeping necessity for absolute naming. Hiding is a bid for independence from others, from mistaken identities we have about ourselves, and from an oppressive and mistaken wish to keep us completely safe, completely ministered to, and therefore completely managed. Hiding leaves life to itself, to become more of itself. Hiding is the radical independence necessary for our emergence into the light of a proper human future. So ends our reading. When I was a child, I spent most of my growing up years living in a split-level house set on about an acre of wooded land. We had woods in the back. We had a creek that ran along one side of the property. There were these random tall patches of bamboo that created these enclaves on our property that allowed you to hide from sight. There were trees to climb. There were places to run off to when you needed to be alone, when you coveted the comfort of not being watched or perceived by anyone. I utilized these spaces quite a bit. As the middle child who shared a room with my younger sibling, privacy was hard to come by, and the desire to self-differentiate was strong. I also craved autonomy in ways that I'm certain now exhausted my parents. And the way that I found to get that autonomy in the hardest moments was to run off and be by myself, often in locations that I never asked permission to go to. One of those spots, dangerously, and I say that just in case my children ever hear me tell this story, one of these spots was the roof of our house. We had a sunroom off the back of our house that had slanted windows that went up to the roof. So I could hoist myself onto this ledge and then scramble over to the top of the sunroom. And then I would crawl along, like where the split level met, and crawl along and hide out in this crevice in the roof. I still don't know if my parents ever found out I did this. I feel like they must have thought there was some very large animal that was going on the roof all the time. I'm not sure. I would find a spot to sit, to sort out my thoughts. Sometimes I brought a book, but I really just was up there to be alone and to think. I did this when my emotions were running high, when I felt like whatever I was feeling might be too much for other people. I was one of those kids, and there's no judgment to my parents for this, but I was one of those kids who was constantly told to stop being so dramatic. That was me. It might still be me. I remember one specific example of heading up to my secret spot when one of our cats was in the process of having a litter of kittens, and the runt of the litter was struggling, and we thought the kitten might not make it, and my fear and my heartbreak over the situation felt too big to show to anyone else. So up to the roof I went, to process, to cry, to work through my fear, to pray, and to do it out of sight from anyone else. I was hiding for sure, and I was doing it in a moment when I thought I was too much for everyone else. When I thought that I would not be able to bring the fullness of what I was feeling into the same space with the rest of my family. I worried, as I often worried back then, and maybe sometimes even worry now, as I just alluded to, that I was too much. I don't know if you guys have heard that phrase going around these days, if I'm too much, like go find someone else or something like that. I didn't have that verbiage then, I just had the roof. I knew my feelings were too big. My needs were just too large. So with that history in mind, with this idea and this thinking about hiding in mind, what I come to you to really talk to you about this morning is inclusion. Inclusion in all its forms, inclusion and welcome of those we do not yet know, inclusion and welcome to those we are in relationship with, who are in need of our help and support, and also the deep work and labor of looking inward and ensuring that we are indeed also welcoming ourselves, all of ourselves, to the table. And my friends, what an interesting, to put it nicely, complicated, honestly harrowing and necessary time it is to be coming to you to talk about inclusion. These last weeks, it has been dizzying to witness how terms like diversity and terms like inclusion, words that speak to our values as humans and as UUs, things we have easily and eagerly celebrated and worked for, some of us for all of our lives, has suddenly been politicized and vilified at such a massive scale. Inclusion efforts in our organizations are being suddenly proclaimed illegal by those with power over our institutions. And it's not just frightening or upsetting, it's also hurtful. It's confusing. It's left many of us dumbfounded in moments. This attempt to invalidate and erase the existence of so many of us, to erase and invalidate the existence of our trans and non-binary beloveds, is hateful and harmful and deserving of our full-throated rejection. It has me ready to scream "I love you" from rooftops, flooding every space with messages and actions that leave no room for this attempt at erasure. I know we all want to wrap our arms around people, to pull them close, to remind them what each and every one of us knows, which is that all of them are worthy of love, all of their experiences are valid, real, and worthy of dignity. I imagine all of us also want to offer love and safety not only to our trans siblings, but to the immigrants in our communities who are scared of deportation and face cruel rhetoric about their character, their reasons for being here, their very lives. We want to cultivate sanctuary and link arms and repeat over and over again to any that can hear us that they are welcome here. All of you are welcome here. All of you belong. No matter how much you feel the need to hide, no matter how deeply you feel the very real need to create safety for yourselves and for your families by retreating at this time, we honor you, we love you, and yes, we welcome you. And I think this is why that reading I brought with me this morning resonated with me so much. Because now that the news cycle contains a barrage of stories about, among other atrocities, this drumbeat of orders and intentions aimed to deliver a message to people, to us, that whether we've come to believe it previously or not, that the fullness of who we are is not welcome. And that the work that we have been doing for so long to remove bias and combat discrimination is something that marginalized people of any community are not deserving to receive. As I've said, for many people, this shift can translate into a sudden confusion that many they work for and alongside have been tricking them. That those who have included them in the past only did so because they had to. Maybe this entire time, even if they were made to believe by many that they were, maybe they weren't ever really welcome in the first place. And again, this fear can create a sudden, deep, real fear for one's safety. It can make you want to climb up on whatever roof it is where you go to hide just to escape, at least for a little while. I'm going to take a moment, like I often do, to sit with that impulse to hide and honor it. I feel like whenever I bring up something in a sermon that some might think, I might want to do that, but I probably shouldn't, let's stop for just a second there. At times of stress and uncertainty, the last thing we should be doing is shaming ourselves about what desires and fears we are juggling. If you want to hide, if you want to retreat, you may also feel shame about that fact because there is so much work to do. But I implore you, do not give in to that shame. Do not give it oxygen if you can't help it, because you don't deserve that. Some of you may have heard me talk before about a Buddhist metaphor of the second arrow. Let me go through that quickly again. In this metaphor, there are two arrows. The first arrow is some kind of harm or injury. It's initial experience that brings suffering with it. This could be a loss, a fear, an actual physical injury, something that is out of our control that has happened to us. This harm can even come in the form of a thought or a desire that springs upon us without any forethought, something negative that's hitting us out of nowhere. That's the first arrow. I think an accessible example of that is anxiety that springs up about the world, about our future, about our safety, or the safety of our loved ones. That's a real type of pain, a real valid type of suffering. The second arrow in this metaphor is the emotional pain we layer on top of the original harmful experience, whether it comes from outside or within ourselves. So in this case, the second arrow we need to watch out for is the shame that we tend to pour all over ourselves when we're struggling. We're already suffering. We don't need to pile more upon ourselves. Famed researcher and storyteller Brené Brown defines shame as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Something that we've experienced, done, or failed to do makes us unworthy of connection. Shame truly is, in my experience, the most painful of emotions. And I believe this is why some in power are working so hard to plant it within us, because it separates us from each other. But my friends, the cultivation and proliferation of shame is the exact opposite of who we are as a people and what we stand for as Unitarian Universalists. We believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We know that equity is the pathway to freedom and that justice is our sacred right. We know that the antidote to shame and separateness is love, and we hold love at the center of all that we are, all that we say, and all that we do. We reject these attempts to shame us and name anything about who we are, what we believe, and say anything about what we are and what we believe, and we fight for. Sorry, guys, I got too excited. I'm going to take a step back. We reject these attempts to shame us, yeah? And name anything about who we are, what we believe, and what we fight for as bad or unnatural. We refuse to cut off others. We will not stand down. But still, this does not mean that we do not get tired. This does not mean that we do not get scared. This does not mean that we don't ever find ourselves at a loss for what our next steps may be, or that we don't sometimes feel the door closing on our ability to live out our love for ourselves fully. Sometimes it's hard to keep fighting. Sometimes we get tired. And my friends, we are just 20 days in. And sometimes when we're tired, exhausted, and yes, also scared, the desire or need to retreat, to hide, can rightfully and justifiably show its face. I don't think any of us would shame anyone else for feeling this need. I hope you won't shame yourselves. Let's get this one thing straight. Even in the face of oppression and injustice, hiding is not cowardice. Hiding and resting is wisdom. At its core, it is an act of self-preservation, a way of tending to the most vulnerable parts of ourselves until they are ready to be seen. As our reading mentioned, the bear in hibernation is not weak. The flower bud waiting for spring is not incomplete. They are simply waiting for the right time to emerge, until the moment when the conditions are right for their safety, or when they've cultivated the energy and resilience needed to enter the world and take on its harshness and all of the unknown that comes with it. Friends, in this time when there is so much in front of us that deserves our attention, we must learn to discern when it is time to retreat and to rest, and when it is time to step forward. We must balance our rest with our work. We're going to need to pace ourselves. We also must learn to trust that even if we haven't fully retreated, but if instead we have felt the need to tuck certain parts of ourselves away, at least for now, the parts of us we have hidden, the parts we fear are too raw, too unpolished, too unworthy, too much, are still sacred. They are still a part of our divine whole. They are still a part of our holy, sacred selves. More often than not, instead of feeling the need to fully retreat, we instead pack certain parts of ourselves away. For many of us, there are likely parts of ourselves, whether they be tendencies, weaknesses, aversions, differences in our abilities, or just a personality trait that someone said something about one time and we've never been able to let go of, that we've never been able to fully bring into the light of our wholeness. We've tucked them away. Now, for many of us, coming out of hiding is lifelong work that has required the utmost amount of patience and care. At some point in our lives, we received the message either directly or indirectly that something about us was wrong or unlovable. And I'm guessing that for most of us, no matter how much work we've done or how much of our authentic selves we were not able to bring to the table, that there are still some things about us that we've deemed as nobody else's business. Some things that maybe, if we really get down to it, we'd have to admit that we may not feel inclined to love about ourselves. And I think this is all of us. I think this is every single one of us. My friends, one of the most difficult spiritual practices we are called to is the practice of welcoming all parts of ourselves. This practice is not just about self-acceptance in a broad sense, but about something much deeper. It's about recognizing the divinity in every aspect of who we are, even the parts we may wish to hide, ignore, or deny. We live in a culture that often tells us we must be polished, perfect, and productive at all times. We must be successful, confident, and unshakable. But this is not the full story of what it means to be human. We know this. Being human means experiencing doubt. It means carrying wounds. It means making mistakes. It means, at least for me, enjoying some things that other people might think are super weird. And yet, with all of these things included, we are still whole. We are still worthy of love and belonging. So how do we practice this radical self-inclusion? How do we welcome the parts of ourselves that we have rejected? I'm sure you all have worked on this. I'm sure you all have ideas you could share with me. I think it begins with small acts of self-compassion. What if instead of berating ourselves for feeling fear, we sat with it like a friend? What if instead of denying our grief, we gave it space to breathe? What if, instead of rejecting our imperfections, we honored them as teachers? It's easier said than done, I know. So I'll take us back to one thing that's worked for me, and this is going back to Buddhist teachings. One method for diffusing these tendencies to hide certain parts of ourselves or to push them away or compartmentalize them is a practice of attending and befriending. First, we recognize and name these things about ourselves, and we attend to them. We stop. We recognize these negative thoughts and beliefs and pay attention to them. Without allowing them to pierce our hearts too deeply, we take the time to sit with these thoughts and recognize that while we do not intend to let them hang around long, that their existence came from somewhere real and from a place that is deserving of care. And that's where the befriending comes into play. If we take a moment to be with the negative thoughts, feelings, or beliefs that we are having about ourselves, we can investigate them a bit and see what's lying underneath them. And when we do this, when we investigate our fear and our negative feelings about ourselves, we're going to find an underlying reason for these feelings that I bet we can find some compassion for. If we aim to treat ourselves at all like we would treat other people, then we will be able to show ourselves a little bit of love. We will recognize what lies underneath. Whatever it is that we are dealing with comes from some place precious, some place that sits in need of love. And just as you would offer it to anyone you care for, you have the ability and the choice in that moment to offer that love to yourself. Maybe this practice diffuses whatever negative thing we were thinking or believing about ourselves. And if that happens, it is such a relief. But more often than not, in my experience, the practice can show us what parts of ourselves we may need to bring into the light of day around others that we trust, because we may need their love too. It could be that this practice takes us out of hiding and back into community. And it's worth asking for. It's worth doing the work to love ourselves into the light, to when it is safe to love ourselves out of hiding. Because here is the truth. When we learn to include all of ourselves, the bright and the shadowed parts, we become more capable of including others. When we stop judging our own wounds, we stop judging the wounds of others. When we offer ourselves grace, we are more able to offer grace to those around us. Because as much as we are worthy of love and welcome, we also need each other. We need to shore up the resources to help one another. And this is the heart of the work we are called to do, not just as individuals, but as a community. To create spaces where people feel truly welcome, we must first practice welcoming ourselves. We must create a culture where wholeness is honored, where vulnerability is embraced, and where every part of our being is seen as divine. And so, as we go forward, let us commit to this practice. Let us commit to honoring the hidden parts of ourselves. Let us trust that even when we feel small, even when we feel uncertain, we are still sacred. When we can, let's climb down from our roofs and come out of hiding. Let us offer ourselves the kindness we so readily offer to others. And let us build a world where no one, no part of anyone, ever feels unwelcome. May we all have the courage to welcome all that we are, knowing that in doing so, we make space for the divine to be fully present within us and among us. Together, we can emerge into the light. May it be so. And now, please rise in body or in spirit as you are so moved to sing our closing hymn, number 131 in the gray hymnal, Love Will Guide Us.
Peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has guide us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Let us now take a moment to extinguish our chalice with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again.
Friends, our worship service now comes to a close. I will be at the back of the sanctuary to say hello to anyone who wants to come by. No pressure. And you are invited to go to the fellowship hall for fellowship and conversation. For those on the live stream, thank you for being with us this morning. And now let us leave this sacred time with this adaptation of the prayer of St. Francis that was adapted by the Reverend Chris Bice. Spirit of life and love, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is indifference, may we bring justice. Where there is selfishness, may we bring equity. Where there is stagnation, may we bring transformation. Where there is single-mindedness, may we bring pluralism. Where there is isolation, may we bring interdependence. Where there is greed, may we bring generosity. And where there is hatred, may we bring love. Make us instruments of your peace, with love at the center of everything we do. Amen. Blessed be, and let us go out singing our rite of community, number 1039, Be Thou With Us.